This is going to be a brief summary of what I learned last night in my study about Tantric Yoga. So, yoga is the science of expanding our consciousness. And I think in our culture today, we've forgotten who we are, we've forgotten where we come from, and we kind of wander our way through life unaware that there's anything more or anything bigger. And our sense of self is very much tied up with ego and very much tied up with being very limited and thinking that we are our body and that's all there is. And after all, the Western mind has pretty much conditioned us to accept this. It makes us feel rather inadequate, and many people are always searching for something. They don't know quite what it is, and they have very little focus in their lives. Very little focus is placed in our society on the path of self-discovery and self-transformation. And once you start down that path, there's so much to learn. In the East, though, for thousands of years, practitioners of different forms of yoga have experimented with different ways to expand the consciousness. And a whole science has developed around these techniques, and it's called the science of yoga. And once we learn to expand our consciousness and we become aware of the source of our energy, the next step is to try to unify ourselves with it. And there are a lot of different ways that we can do this. Tantric yoga is the sexual path to this reunification process with the source of all that is. And it consists of different practices and rituals that we can use in order to liberate us from just being in our bodies at the physical level of our being. That's the one most people identify with their self. If you ask somebody who they are, oftentimes they'll identify with their job or where they work, what they do for a living, who their partner is, who their kids are, and so on and so forth. And they don't really identify themselves as anything more than what the physical world appears that they are. But we are really a lot more than that. And the yogis in the East have been experimenting with different techniques for thousands of years to help us to develop to a point where we can expand our consciousness and we can really truly transform. The first step is to open up the consciousness of our brain and to awaken it, because that will expand all 5 of the senses, and that in turn can bring about amazing transformation. The practitioner of pink tantra, which is a mix of red and white tantra, and so therefore it mixes the spiritual aspects with the sexual union aspects, makes both the spiritual energy and sexual energy, because really they're the same sides. They're the same side of the same coin, if you will. And it takes a lot of discipline and practice to be able to move this energy. Spiritual energy moves upwards and sexual energy moves downwards. So the whole process is about unifying those energies and bringing them to work together. And being able to do that at will takes a lot of practice and a lot of discipline. But when it is mastered, conscious awareness can be expanded. And the practitioner of this will be able to penetrate higher spiritual realms even after experience the ecstasy of the tantric bliss, because that isn't the end goal in itself. Unfortunately, our culture is very confused about sexuality. On one hand, we are plied with images, constantly sexual images through the media, through music, through culture in general. But then on the other hand, there are cultural norms that teach us that we must repress these desires and these, base things that are part of every single human being. And so the popular culture ignores the love aspect of the sexual union, and it focuses only on exploiting sexuality. In the practice of pink tantra, love is sex energy transformed. This means that you probably need to practice this with a partner, and a partner that is aware of all of these things and willing to practice. Not very easy to find in this world. So there are specific techniques that are taught in this system to help move energy through the body, and this is called Kriya Yoga. These work on strengthening the body and helping to calm the emotions and enhancing our thought process. This leads to a balancing of body, mind, and spirit. So there's a saying in Kundalini Yoga that if you can feel it, you can heal it. So in order to feel some of the distressing emotions and thoughts that we have, first we have to be able to feel them, and then we can learn to let them go. The practices of Kriya Yoga are scientific and very practical, and that's why it's sometimes called action yoga. It is one of the most ancient systems in the world, and in some form in every single developed society it is practiced. It might be called by a different name. So Kriya is the science of rotating consciousness through the astral pathways of the body through a process of what is called internal alchemy, and that means transformation. This is done by pulling etheric energy into the cerebrospinal fluid and altering its electrical properties. This process is called lighting the cosmic fire. The techniques that are used cleanse and unblock the energy pathways in the body, and the electrically charged fluid or cosmic fire floods the brain with cosmic energy, and in the process awakens the third eye, which is the seat of individual consciousness in the middle of the forehead. When this happens, both the pineal and the pituitary glands are stimulated, and that transforms our entire nervous system. When this occurs, our senses are heightened, and our ability to perceive the sensitivity of our nervous system is greatly heightened, and this practice also allows for the expansion then of our consciousness. One of the important principles of tantric union revolves around the idea of resolving duality. Duality is the idea that everything has its opposite. So, for example, if there's good, there must also be evil. However, when we transcend this realm and we move into higher ones, there is no such concept as duality. Why? Because ultimate reality is one. It is all there is. It is the source that created us, and we will eventually return to it. The purpose of life on this planet is the evolution of mind, body, and spirit, and if we do not evolve, we will be presented with many more lifetimes until we get it right. Because of duality, we perceive that there are two principles, male and female. However, in our bodies, both of these exist simultaneously, and in Tantra and other yogas, there's an emphasis placed on bringing these polarities together. Kriya Yoga is what is called the right-hand path. This means the practitioner focuses on attaining balance between the male and female aspects of the individual. It can be practiced alone, but if you practice alone, the process is very slow. Tantric Kriya Yoga also includes the left-hand path, which is a sharing of conscious sexual forces between two partners. Mixing the male and female energies in an internal alchemy awakens dormant energy centers, which in turn leads to illumination much more quickly. So if you can find a partner in order to practice this, it will go much more smoothly and much more quickly. You can practice it alone, but the process is very, very slow. According to Tantric Yoga, the ecstasy of sexual orgasm is the moment one experiences true union with the beloved. The moment there is no longer any I, but instead a unified consciousness. There's no separation. And while this is certainly the experience of most sexual activity that is undertaken in a loving relationship, in Tantra, the climax can be extended to many minutes due to a system of techniques for prolonging orgasm in order to experience unity consciousness. Tantric masters teach that in that moment, we remember who we really are. The essence of Tantric Kriya Yoga consists of the following practices, all of which I will have to study as I progress through the system. First, asanas, which are postures that are used for purifying the physical body and strengthening it. Pranayama is work on breathing techniques, and those exist also in the process of expanding consciousness. Dhyana is meditation and concentration practices. Mantras is the use of sounds which resonate in the body. Yantras are visual representations of mantras that are used for concentration purposes. Mudras are gestures that activate body energy currents. Bandhas are energy locks, which are applied in order to keep pranic energy in the body or to move it at will from one area to another. And last but not least, if you're practicing with a partner, Maituna, which is the actual act of sexual union. According to the practice of this form of yoga, doing these exercises will ensure that we can reach an optimal level of energy balance and sustain it as well. And that is the key to vitality, physical and mental health, as well as spiritual transformation. See you next time.